I'm Brooke Lacey, and this is my friend Michael, and we're going to talk about digital security and financial literacy, all of the different things that I think are important to everybody. So everyone knows I have been doing content over on TikTok, and now I'm over here on YouTube because it's just better. I know that all of you on YouTube think that, so I'll just say that. I'm really, really fascinated with cybersecurity and how that works for the digital asset age that we're in. I personally feel like there's so much psychology behind this, and money can make people do crazy things, especially like desperation and in like uncertain times, in bear markets. We're going to try to keep this as general as possible, and then maybe get into little specifics. But Michael, what's up? Tell me who you are and a spicy story. No, I'm kidding.
No, good to be here with you, Brooke. And yeah, I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I've been working in cybersecurity pretty much my entire life. And uh,
Did you go
finding
to school for it, or are you one of those weirdos that just like is so smart? It's just
I
like did
actually,
it.
yeah, I dropped out of college. I had a full ride and ended up dropping out within the first few months.
Oh man.
Yeah,
It's
it
okay.
was it was something that I had a plan for. I wasn't
Yeah.
just dropping out and trying to like enjoy life. I was dropping out and wanted to execute on my business plan, which I've had my own business since I was 13 years old. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, I had my first LLC at 16, first office at 21, and then I merged my business with a lot larger IT company at the age of
So
23.
cool.
So
I didn't know that about you. That's very cool. I should maybe like explain, I think, to the newcomers to my content that I've been in tech since the mid 90s. I got a hold of my first computer. I wasn't one of those like kids that, started on the Commodore 64 when they were like 5. I got a hold of my first computer in an after school job when I was 16. It was at a car dealership, and I was like the receptionist. And that's when I started taking care of, myself. I didn't really have, I was kind of put into that. So at 16, I was on my own. And had this great job and was like doing high school, and they wheeled in this like giant, Windows 3.1, like
yeah, I
a
remember
huge
that.
like monitor, and like it had like, Windows on it. And I didn't know what was happening, but I loved the sort of solitary nature of it. And that, because I kind of, well, I had a really traumatic childhood. And so computers were like everything for me. It was this like elegant way of like communicating with people, even though at that point there wasn't really, the same type of internet, which, by the way, we want to like define this whole idea of Web3. And I want your perspective on this, but I, at one time, like a couple of years ago, it came to me, and I kind of like went through it with some stuff I found online, that like Web 1 was consumption. Like we were able to like dial up and consume whatever was out there on the internet. It was like the first iteration. Web 2, second iteration of the internet, of consumption and contribution. We could like write blogs, and we could like contribute to things and like send emails. And now Web 3 is just simply the third iteration of the internet, where it's both of those things and collaboration and like user generated content. But we've also, Michael and I are kind of a part of this other world, of NFTs and crypto and all of that, which is very important to us. And that has kind of adopted this word, this like term Web3. And so it's kind of like taken on a different meaning. So that being
It's
said, what
funny.
is your perspective on it?
It's funny that you mentioned like your first interactions and Windows 3.1. Um, it, so when I was younger, this reminds me of my Windows 95 days.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I actually had this like hand-me-down laptop that was given to me, and it had Windows on it. And what I would do I would voluntarily install a virus on the
Totally.
laptop, and then I would manually go through like the folders and registry keys that it created
Yep.
so I can understand what it's doing when it gets on the computer.
Yeah.
Then I would manually remove those entries, then run a virus scan to confirm that it's completely gone and that I was able to manually understand the breakdown of what
Yeah.
software does when it gets into your machine. So
And don't
that,
you feel like it's like it made you, people always think it's so technical, and guys and girls look at these things differently. It's just how our brains work. So like I always looked at it in this sort of ethereal, like, oh, I feel better when I'm like working on a computer because it doesn't like yell at me. But I feel like guys, you don't really think about it, but it does make you like feel better, like almost like you're in control. Like you just put that like crazy malware on or whatever it was, and then you figured out what it was and then you fixed it, because guys are fixers.
yeah. So here's the thing, like a lot of people don't really care about it, how it works, right? They
Right.
just use it.
Right.
But us being technical makes it so that we like want to understand what we're using and what
Yeah.
and makes us more comfortable using it, right?
Yeah.
Like how many times being in the cybersecurity space have you witnessed people just hitting I agree and I accept to everything that's popping up on their
Right.
laptop or their computer or their tablet, whatever
Right.
they're using?
And it's
That's
not even
scary.
just Web3. Like this has been a thing for
Oh
how
no, no,
long,
I'm
you
not even
know?
talking, I'm not even in Web3. I'm talking cybersecurity
Totally.
Web2 world.
Totally.
For constant mismanagement of credentials, forgetting your own password,
Yep.
going through multiple resets, not understanding what the point of two-factor authentication is.
Right.
So these are things that, let alone, they don't teach us in school. So when
Right.
you're going through the process of seeing somebody going through preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, bachelor's, master's, internship, and then they still don't get the concept of where does a file go when you hit save?
Right.
That's a scary thing to me.
Basic stuff.
Say,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a scary thing to me that we're going to onboard millions or billions of people into somewhere where you are now your own bank and you are your
Right.
own self custody.
Right. That's exactly what, like, we have this whole outline, and like I had this on here where it's like, security is so much more important now than it has been ever, because everybody's been asking for, for being in control of their stuff. And then when we give it to them as technologists, they're like, wait,
Yeah.
I don't understand. And so like it makes it more important for us to have tools.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what it is, it's fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
It's like
for sure.
you're comfortable with the systems in place, so why would you switch over to something that's new, right?
Right.
But I think it's just a matter of time before larger institutions start implementing blockchain technology and have their users technically onboarded without them even knowing they're using blockchain,
Right.
right? Let's see what Reddit did, right?
Yeah.
See what Amazon is about to do. They're about to onboard their masses without them necessarily having to understand solidity or signatures,
Right.
transactions and swaps.
Right.
That's going to make it a little easier to penetrate that larger market.
Yeah. It's exactly what we've all been talking about for so long. Even like when the voting stuff happened, I remember telling my dad, like they just didn't understand. And it's like, we're not even that much apart. I gotta say this. Sometimes I'm like all over the place, but it's this generational thing. I talk about age a lot. Everyone thinks I'm, like, oh my God, I'm so old, but it's not that. It's that there's such a difference. I'm Gen X. Like it used to just be like everybody kind of was in the same world, but like even 10 years older than me or 10 years younger, it's a vast difference. And then I have a teenager, and like their generation is so it blows my mind. Like he's grown up with a technologist for a mom, and then like on the YouTube generation, he was at my business, when I first started my business, which was what I was going to talk about earlier, but I'm all over the place, whatever.
No, it's cool. Let's keep the
But
content flowing.
their generation it's just so different. They're like born with iPads in their hands. And so this idea that like we're going to implement blockchain and everyone's going to be using it without really even knowing, it's like the what did I used to say? It's sort of like the Industrial Revolution when the combustible engine was like discovered or, created, whatever. I really feel like it's just discovered. Things are already there and,
Yeah,
and brought about. And you didn't have to know how the engine worked. You just had
right.
to know how to drive the car. So I was saying that like the the voting stuff with like the paper ballots, and I'd be like, what is happening? Like what is
Yeah,
happening?
it's 2023. What is going
Right.
on?
What?
I think that it's important to note, and you gave a good example. We didn't care about it, how it worked. It just worked, right?
Yeah.
So taking the same concept of an ATM machine, when
Yes.
when you walk up to an ATM machine, you're not concerned about the inner software or the hardware that's making it work. You're just cared about pressing some buttons on the nice interface and getting your money from wherever it is.
Yep.
So eventually, with tooling like Wallet Guard, the
Mhm.
point is to make this information that we're being presented with a little more human readable, a
Right.
little easier to understand, so that you don't have to learn Solidity, you don't have to know how to read a signature. That information should be presented to you in a way that it's easily understandable as a user, and you don't have to care about that background code or that transaction that's happening
I think that's why you and I and a lot of the people like in our sphere, in the security, like Web3 security sphere are like, we understand each other because it's not about trying to like get people to understand the tech. It's about like providing people with the security without them even having to understand it.
yeah.
And, that is the great thing. So
I think if I could give a quick example
yeah.
of the concept where people say I'm not tech savvy or
Yes.
I'm too old to figure it out, right?
Yes.
I think that again is just implementing the idea of fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
You just don't want to know it
Yeah.
because you're comfortable with what you have. So I like to give a very layman example to people that say it's too confusing, I can't understand it.
Yeah.
We've been taught that commerce should work a certain way our whole lives, which is you walk into a store, you have a credit card or a debit card that's made by Visa or MasterCard.
Yeah.
That's one institution. Then you have that money that's sitting in a bank like Chase or Bank of America. That's another institution. You're walking up to purchase this item, and there's a point of sale system, which takes a piece of the transaction, which is another institution. That's connected to a merchant service provider, which sells you the point of sale system as a
Yep.
business. And then eventually, after 4 to 5 days, 3 to 5 days, your money posts on the business's bank account, which might be different than your bank account. So there's about 5 to 6 different institutions and hops
Yeah.
where
Exactly.
they're taking a piece of our transaction, right? And they're also seeing what we're doing. So
Yeah.
that's what we've been taught is normal.
And
Okay.
nobody like questions it.
No one questions it because it's the norm, right?
Yeah.
So when I give somebody that example and they're like, well, yeah, that's fine. And then I say, okay, so let's take how the same exact scenario, but using cryptocurrency. You walk into that business, you have a wallet address, you own your own funds, you want to buy something, it goes directly from your address to the business's wallet address.
Yeah.
Within seconds, not days, it's encrypted, it's secure, and it's trustless, it's peer to peer.
Right.
There's 5 different institutions that are all trying to middleman this transaction.
Right.
And when you bring it into the idea of a gas fee, so I recently had a situation where I had to transport my car from one state to another.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, the total cost, just for the sake of argument, the total cost is going to be $1,000.
Right.
You could pay it in cash, it's 1,000, or you could pay it with a credit card, it's 1,060,
Yep.
because we offload the fee to you.
Yeah. So
So
many
at the
people do
same
that.
time, so many people do it. At the
Yeah.
same time that I'm here, that I'm on this phone call, the transaction for I think it was other side deed, where there's a single resource on it. Anyway, it's sold for $1.6 million worth of Ethereum.
Yeah.
I went to the transaction hash on Etherscan, and the fee to transfer $1.6 million worth of Ethereum was right under $4. So
Oh, right.
so you're taking a real world example of saying, okay, we're stuck in this system where we have no control of what's
Right.
happening in the background, right?
Right.
And we are succumbed to pay these insane fees because we can't change them.
Right.
And to transfer $1,000, it costs $60.
Right.
But now you're talking on chain where,
And how would you get the cash to him anyway? Right?
well,
Because
yeah,
it's outside of the state.
well, no, he's
Like you
transferring.
could have driven down there and given the cash, but yeah.
Right. Either way, it's the concept where the person could be on the other side of the globe, and
Right.
within seconds, they could get that amount of money for a fee that's infinitely less than a
Yeah.
credit card transaction fee, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's wild that like this concept, it's just like people are just sort of blindly going through it and don't want to, they don't want to like see the benefits of any other way, even though like they're willing to like pay all these fees. And then they'll say stuff like it's, I'm paying for convenience. And it's like, yeah, but if you add that up over, however many transactions, let's say in just a year, that you're doing this stuff, like you're paying money that could be used for education or investing. That's the whole idea of investing.
even within your own business, you're hurting your own business's bottom line because
Right.
now you have to raise the cost of what you're doing in order to cover the cost of fees.
Right. Exactly.
So when it comes down to commerce, eventually there will be an awakening to the point where businesses are going to realize the ability for blockchain to offload costs that they are experiencing. And it's not even on a monetary basis.
Right.
Let's talk about how it can offload your cost on hardware and resources.
Right.
So using blockchain technology in order to store data, or using it in order to provide verification as opposed to holding, all these bureaucratic systems of data entry and document processing, it
Right.
could be a game changer for multiple industries.
Yep. I don't know if you remember, like, of course you do, but I say this to everybody, like, remember 2008? I mean, even my kid remembers 2008. I'm not, talking about the age situation, but we sometimes forget because it really wasn't that long ago. And a lot of my family was really badly affected by the financial downturn. And like, the just mass casualties of all of this, government, like they trusted. I wasn't affected. I had a great job in technology. You know, I was about to start a new business and I wasn't affected. And maybe it was because I was more vigilant, more like, hyper focused on making sure that didn't happen. But watching people lose their 401ks and, just it had no control over what was happening. And then, in technology, we were always hearing about, this idea of digital cash, but no one could really figure it out. And it wasn't really like top of mind. It was just after 2008, it was top of mind. And, that's when blockchain and Bitcoin sort of came around. And for most people in that world, it wasn't like this revolution, like everything's going to change. It was sort of this like spark of a new way of being in technology and like solving a problem that was so like egregious, and people don't quite remember that. But like blockchain wasn't necessarily just for digital cash. It was this way of like taking everybody into a new like just way of being. And it's taken
It
this
was an
long.
out. It was an out. It was another
Yes,
option.
exactly.
Without blockchain, what options do you have?
Right.
If you want to take if you want to take all of your assets, let's say when it comes to gold or cash, and you
Right.
want to go to another country, you're not going to lug around a giant bag of.
Exactly.
You're not going to bring stacks and stacks of cash with you.
Right.
But if you have the ability to unlock your assets anywhere in the world where there's an internet connection
Yep.
by having a key to it, I mean, that
Right.
is that is freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
then I think it brings us perfectly into this idea that, it's this sort of step-by-step process. And if you look back at, when we did, trade in actual gold bars and like silver, there were protections in place. I have a family member that literally had their silver like dug a hole in the property and like had all this silver in there. And but there was the whole point is there was protections in place, and it goes from the simple to the more complex. And then when the next thing came out, and of course the dollar was backed by gold, you could go in and get your gold bars. So the bank was protecting your gold. And then when that fell apart, I don't think people understand still that it's not actually backed by gold. There's nothing. It's just Fugazi. It's like, I have this $100 bill. Like, what is it? It's nothing. It's actually ripped, and I have to take it to the bank to get a new one. Like, why do we even have this? I don't even know. So it's this idea that you believing in technology, and that's, I think, where we come from. Like, I literally have binary code. You've seen it on my arm. Like, I trust numbers. I trust math. There's no one in this world that can say, I don't trust math. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on, you know? And so this is the whole thing with security is like, when we get into this isn't just about crypto and, NFTs and all the different things. This is about like stepping into self-sovereignty and making sure that you're in control of your money, whatever that looks like. And then taking that a step further and saying, we need something like Wallet Guard, that we're going to sort of teach in a future episode, like exactly what that means. I think right now we're just really trying to keep this like simple and understanding just where we're coming from. But the protections in place are more important right now because of that self-sovereignty. You can't call customer service for Bitcoin.
Right. Exactly.
And so, yeah.
If you get a fraudulent transaction on your credit card, you're calling up your bank and you're saying, hey, I didn't do that, and they give you the money back direct. Right now, that's not a concept that exists on blockchain. You're not calling up Ethereum and saying, all my stuff is gone, help me get it back right now.
Right.
So when we do talk about device hygiene, security hygiene, and that existing in Web 2, it doesn't exist, which is why it's scary for people to come into Web 3 without the right tooling and without the right education. So education can only go so far.
Yeah.
Right? It could be the middle of the night and you're not thinking about education when you're clicking or typing something in.
Right.
And it might be
it's human nature. It's just human nature. Just want to do it and then be done.
Exactly. So as long as there's some line of defense behind you making the wrong move on the internet, I think it's going to make the space a little safer to navigate, a little safer to click on links, right? These are things that people are at this point are so afraid to do, even advanced traders and people that have been in the space for so long.
Right.
So
I'll give you an example too. So I yell to the world that I'm in grad school studying cybersecurity, but it's management ops. So I want to like manage the hackers. Anyway, I'll get into that at another time. But at my university here in Boise, I don't know why it doesn't matter that I'm in Boise. Here at my university, like in order to log in, it has nothing to do with assets. Every 7 days, I have to like do a 2-factor authentication with the Duo app. And it's just to get into the university. Like, what? There's no assets involved, but they take their security so seriously. But what we were talking about in my InfoSec class was like, it's the annoyance that like people don't want to do that. All the professors are like, this is too much. It literally takes 3 seconds, 2, 4, whatever. If it took 10 seconds, it would be fine. But it's this idea of like convenience, and the world moves so fast, and like, it's like the website thing where people show up on a website and they're only there for like 3 seconds, like because they can't be bothered to scroll. So again, like we're creating this convenience for people because that's human nature.
Exactly. I think that when you are too comfortable with what you have, you get to the point where you don't want to learn anything else. And that's exactly the round that we're being involved with right now. So Wallet Guard is a free extension for your internet browser. Essentially what it does is it provides an additional layer of security anytime that you're visiting a supposed NFT project, if you're performing a transaction on a DeFi platform or a DEX, It's checking the links that you're accessing as
That's what
well.
I've found is like that when I have it and I go to like a link that is brand new, like somebody wanted me to check out a token, like a new token, and
Yeah,
Wallet Guard was like, I wouldn't click that, or go there. It had nothing to do with my wallet
right.
or, any type of like financial transaction. It was just literally to go view this website. That was
Yeah.
dope.
One of the things that we always hear all the time is DYOR, right? Do your own
Right.
research. But like no one explains how to do your own research.
Right.
Right. So when we hear people saying, okay, how do you tell if a project or a website is legit? One of the variables is checking public who is information to see when the domain was registered.
Yep.
Most people don't want to go through that
Like, how
process.
would they even know? Yeah.
They
How
don't
would
even
they
know
go to
who
know to
is
go
it.
to who is?
Right. So what Wallet Guard's doing is that's one of the layers of security is we're checking that information for the user. You don't have to go and see when the domain was registered. We'll tell you if
Right.
it was recently spun up or might be a suspect of a phishing campaign.
Yeah.
All of these different variables coming into place for the user just make the experience a little easier to browse, a little more comfortable for me to onboard my friends and family members
Yeah.
and say, hey, at least there's a line of defense available for them to, if they accidentally type OpenSea wrong or they
Yeah.
they click on a bad link or get a DM from someone saying there's a free mint. These are all different variables that are covered and essentially make the user understand, hey, you don't want to do that. You don't
Right.
want to.
And
So
everyone's used extensions. That's the beauty of this. Like we keep going back to this idea of like user, like how easy it is. It's not really like user accessibility. It's more like, hey, you've done this before. We're not telling you to do anything fancier. We're just saying go to this website and click, the extension, and Google will do, or whatever browser you have will do the work for you, knowing that it's a good extension or, like all of that stuff. Cause of course we want you to be secure and like, don't download the wrong extension. There's
exactly.
so many like layers to this, but
Yeah, we definitely want users to get it from the right place.
yeah,
So walletguard.app is our official
I'll put it
website.
in the links and stuff.
Definitely
Yay,
throw it
YouTube with all
down
of
in
the
the links.
info that it allows you to put it in. Just
Right?
click the link below, subscribe.
Exactly. Exactly. So walletguard.app is the official website.
Yep.
It is available directly on the Chrome store. And currently
And
we
there
have
is some research, there is some like information on there. I'm obviously all about education. And so not only can you get the extension and make sure, that everything's protected, but there's some content on there. There's information. If you are super technical, you guys put out all the code on GitHub, right?
Yeah,
If
so
people are
we have
interested.
our repository available on GitHub, so it's
Yeah.
open source. We want to be as transparent as possible because building trust in the security space, let alone Web3, is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
So over the past year, we've actually done over 35 recorded Twitter spaces on our official Wallet Guard Twitter, which is wallet_guard.
Yeah, everyone should understand this that's watching. Michael and I are obsessed with Twitter Spaces. And so you can also find us like jabbering over there as well.
Oh yeah, we're in Twitter spaces daily
All the
at that.
time.
Yeah, so it's about providing the right education, letting people know that, hey, we're actually here to build an application that's going to help onboard your friends or family. It takes 5 seconds to grab it. And just in case, if you're concerned about the security or the trust layer, take a look. We've got over 9,000 downloads. We're reaching 10,000 downloads in the Chrome store, which is awesome.
It's amazing.
We have over those 35 recorded security sessions with different companies and different individuals, like the co-founder of MetaMask, Dan Finley. We recently had him on.
Yep.
And we recently completed our pre-seed round, so we're happily backed by Consensus, IOSG, and Ethereal Ventures. So shout out to them for believing
Yeah, I
in us.
think people don't quite understand, like they hear, especially in the Web3 sort of bubble. I know you have to go. But in the like the Web3 bubble, everyone's kind of afraid of like VC and back, money backed. What? No,
Yeah.
like
Well, we're
VC
not.
backed.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we're not just a bunch of VCs. We're actual developers, right?
Right.
We're degens, we're traders, we're NFT collectors.
Right.
So what would we want to see and be comfortable with letting our friends and family come into the space and be able to navigate it to the point where one click is not going to drain their entire wallet or take
Right.
all of their funds.
But
That's
in the business sense, I think it's like we need to make things more accessible to people and not try to, get them to pay for it first, if that makes sense. So
Oh,
I
100%.
like the way that Wallet Guard is actually running their business, in this world that we're in. And if people are coming into this and just now knowing or realizing or educating themselves, a lot of these like technology platforms are looking for funding, almost like a crowdsourcing with creating a token or creating an NFT project, and that extracts the money out of this ecosystem to fund their technology. And that's literally never the case in Web 2, Web 0. Like there's always investors. Even if I'm self-investing, when I started my first company, it was all self-funded. That's still money outside of the ecosystem. And then you bring in money to cover that cost. People don't talk about that enough. It's just everybody's like, what? It's not just for free. Like, no, that's not how business works. So I'm super excited to see like how that goes forward with Wallet Guard.
Yeah, we've had over a year of development. We've put a lot of time into making sure
I've
that
watched.
we put a lot of time into making sure it's safe, it's secure, it's not directly touching your wallets in any way.
Right.
The concept
people
of
don't quite understand that. We
yeah,
all scream about like, don't, download these things or whatever, but it's truly not touching anyone's wallet. It's truly
you could see that in our source code.
Mhm.
So the concept of being able to provide a security layer without directly interfacing with your wallet is definitely something that we take a lot of pride in.
Yep.
And being able to secure those assets no matter what wallet you're using. Soon we'll be launching on multiple different chains as well. Right now it's Ethereum mainnet, so we're focusing on the biggest group so far.
Right.
But we do want to launch support for more chains, and we also want to be blockchain agnostic, which I think is going to be super beneficial for the future development of blockchain. So
we'll do a whole nother episode on like why different blockchains do different things and the security aspect for both of them. But yay, this was good for our first little conversation.
Definitely.